Modern animism makes the oldest spiritual belief easy for today's seekers to understand, practice, and live. Stay tuned and grow with us. Hey guys, it's Laura Giles, your host of Modern Animism Radio. We've crossed the midway point in winter and it's all downhill from here. One thing you may want to do before the season is over is check out a silent retreat. We did a mini silent retreat the weekend of the promise of spring, and I've got the scoop. In today's podcast, I'm going to tell you what is a silent retreat, how to prepare for a silent retreat, what to look for, and what my experience was like. Then I'll give you some potential benefits to help you decide if this is something that would be good for you. But first, let's give acknowledgement to the elements and show some love. I thank the element of earth for providing us with a beautiful, bountiful planet to call our home, for food, shelter, plants, animals, and our bodies that give us a way to interact with the natural world. Thank you, Earth. Thank you to the air that fills our lungs and animates our bodies with spirit. Thank you for taking our prayers and heartfelt whispers to the other side so that we may communicate with our ancestors and they with us. Thank you for the inspiration to engage with the natural world as well as the physical and spiritual worlds. Thank you to fire that gives us the energy to create each day, explore our imaginations in the physical world, and warm our hearts. Thank you to the water that helps us to flow with the ups and downs that life brings, that gives us examples of how softness overcomes hardness, so that when we feel like giving up, we hang on to our soft power and keep going. Thank you to the plant, animal, mineral, and spiritual ancestors, our fellow earthlings who share our life here and provide us with so much that we need to survive. May we always remember our connection and always interact with that love and respect. In gratitude, so be it. So, let's jump right in there. I like the idea of a silent retreat that it's something that's gaining steam. I know I've heard of it long before now, but I certainly didn't have any desire to try it. And I'm not sure who I thought it was for, but it wasn't me. So let me tell you first what a silent retreat is. So it's taking a time out from your daily life to be in silence. Now, it's not just about not talking, it's about being still. The stillness is important. You want to meditate, be mindful, and turn your attention inward versus outwards, and observe. This is major yin energy, not yang. So winter is the perfect time for it. Think still and quiet so that you can hear the whispers of your soul, feel your feelings, see into things that you are distracting yourself from, and undo the habits and patterns. I'm not about rules at all, but some agreements that you can have with yourself that can help you to stay in that frame of mind might be things like refrain from sex, refrain from intoxicants, no talking, no lying, no eating of heavy or sensuous foods. It's a silence not just of speech, but of the mind, body, and spirit, so no gesturing unless it's absolutely necessary, no eye contact, no reading, writing, exercising, or listening to music or technology. So if it's outward energy, if it's busy, if it's distraction, those are probably not the things that you want to engage in. Of course, you can personalize your experience so that it's the best for you, but these are some guidelines and some standard things that you'll see pretty much everywhere. To prepare for a silent retreat, I'd ease off the heavy and delicious foods to give your body a chance to adjust. I have been eating pretty light all winter, so that's been great for me because we had light foods and a lot of soup for the retreat. And I was surprised about that. That was really just right. You don't want to be sitting for long periods of time with a food baby in your stomach. You'll be really uncomfortable. Also, food can be social. And if you sit at a table and eat a fantastic dinner with other people, you're more likely to be taken out of the vibe. So I think simple is the way to go. I'd prepare for that so you aren't starving and having to adjust to a big shift in lifestyle once you get there. Another thing that seems to be common is that portions are smaller and the number of meals at a silent retreat is less. So instead of 3 meals per day, there's often only 2. And that might sound like, oh shoot, I need to pack my full bag of snacks. And you may want to do that. But since you're really conserving your energy, I don't think you'll need to do that, but I prepare just in case by bringing snacks and easing up on the food before your retreat date hits. Some retreats ban caffeine because it's a stimulant and you want to avoid that. The point is to relax, not rev up. So if you're a caffeine junkie, I'd consider whether the retreat is for you, or if you want to cut back or even stop caffeine before you go. Most have lots of tea available. I'm a tea drinker, but I drink way more tea during the retreat than I typically do. I enjoy it so much more, and you might want to plan for that. If you have a favorite type, I'd bring it. I also meditated a lot. I've never meditated as much as I did during the silent retreat, and if I had to go from nothing or a tiny bit to being in that space all day, I don't think I could have made it, so I'd practice with that beforehand. If you haven't meditated with other people, you may want to do that before you go. It's common to have group meditations and silent retreats. The vibe is totally different. I find it more powerful. Whatever is releasing in the room will release in everyone. Whatever wonderful vibe is going around will also be available to you. So it's a really great way to feel a sense of community and safety. You don't have to talk to anyone or get to know anyone, but you'll feel connected to them anyway, which is pretty cool. If you want to try that out, we do Meditation Mondays on YouTube live stream at 1 o'clock Eastern. It's virtual, so it's not the same as doing it in person, but we do have a shared group experience, and it creates a sense of community to show up. So you're more likely to do it than just meditating on your own. It's also a great way to just start off the week as well. I'd also figure out how you are the most comfortable. Do you need a meditation cushion? They make these portable meditation benches that are low to the ground and keep your weight off your legs that are really nice. There are these meditation chairs that sit on the floor, but they have back support if you need back support. If you're meditating for 7 to 10 hours a day, you want to be able to do that comfortably. And having the right type of seating makes all the difference. I wouldn't take it for granted that your host location will know what you need or have it, so I plan on bringing that. This was something I hadn't planned for, but fortunately, our location did have meditation cushions, and that made things a lot easier for me. Now, I don't do a lot of technology at any time, but if you are a heavy technology user, I'd also wean off that so that you don't go into the silent retreat cold turkey. Maybe even delete some apps like games or social media before you get there so you're used to not doing that all day, every day. Another thing I'd prep for is wake up time. Typically, a silent retreat begins the day at sunrise or even before. And if you're not an early riser, you may wish to do a solo retreat or find one with a later start time. If you're doing it with an organization, know what the start time is and adjust your waking time at least a couple of weeks beforehand so that your body clock is prepared for that. Most also have an early lights out time, so going to bed earlier will help with that. Finally, to prepare for your silent retreat, I'd practice radical openness. This is probably one of those life experiences that don't go according to expectations. This can mean all sorts of things. Maybe it means you're bored out of your mind, wonder what the heck you're doing here, and can't wait to leave. Maybe it means you make friends with silence and some inner demons. Maybe it means you have a transformative experience that doesn't fit into any category. If you're pushing the process, it won't happen. If you complain, you may miss the magic. And if you don't sink into the present moment, you're not going to experience anything either. So I'd practice both mindfulness and radical openness so that you can be good with whatever shows up when it shows up. Oh, and one more thing, bring comfy clothes. This is not a fashion show where you're going to be spending an hour on your hair and makeup and wearing your cute clothes. If you're into that or anyone else is checking you out like that, you're probably not in the right space. This is an inner experience, not an outer one. So let's talk about what to look for in a silent retreat. Fortunately, there are many options nowadays for silent retreats, and you could do a day-long, weekend, 7-day, 10-day. I've even heard of the month-long silent retreat. You could even take a time out in the privacy of your own home if you wanted to, and you have the space to yourself. So here are some tips to help you decide about where to do it. So first, I choose a location with minimal distractions. So if you don't live alone, live in an apartment where you share walls with other people, or just live in a high traffic area, your own house probably won't do it. There's too many distractions, and you won't get to the calm, quiet, still boredom that you have to transcend to get the juices that you want. A retreat center or house in a rural area is perfect. The sounds of crickets or owls at night, a dark sky, and no distractions is what you're after. On that note, a lot of retreat centers that host silent retreats have dormitories where you're sleeping with a lot of people in the same room. I don't recommend that. Some people snore. Some people are up and down all night. Some people have no other awareness. I can do dorm style or camping style or no privacy for a night or two, but you're not going to have a very restful time if you're sleeping in a dorm for nights on end. If you can afford a more private situation, I'd go for that. Another thing to consider is group size. You're not supposed to be socializing with anyone or having any eye contact, so in a way, the group size doesn't matter. Personally, I'd want enough people that I don't feel all alone, but not so many that I feel lost in a crowd. Whatever number that is for you is the one that works. The vibe of the group is super important. We all create it together. So if it's a small group and someone comes with some funky energy, it'll make a bigger impact on a small group. It can get lost or absorbed in a larger group. So people come to these things to heal, release, or escape, and can be carrying a heavy load. We all create the group vibe wherever we go. It's called resonance or co-regulation, so the collective vibe is important. The vibe of the facilitator and retreat center is also important. If it feels open, friendly, accepting, and warm, that's a very good start. You want to feel comfortable to be vulnerable and open. You have no idea who might show up as a guest, but the facilitator will attract a certain type of crowd. If you feel good about them and feel that they have good boundaries and can hold space safely, perhaps that's the most important aspect of the group vibe. Oh, back to the length of the silent retreat. I definitely recommend dipping your toe in for a day-long or weekend silent retreat for your first go-round. Silent retreats are not for everyone. If you go online and search, "This is what happened on my silent retreat," you will see lots of stories of people who crashed and burned out of boredom. If you turn out to be one of those people, you're going to be a pain in the backside to the people around you because you'll become that distraction. If you do choose a day or weekend silent retreat, I wouldn't treat it as a silent retreat, but a dipping your toes in trial run. The silent retreat is a deep dive. It takes time for your nervous system, digestion, brain, and habits to shift. It's like shaking a jar of dirty water. The more you agitate it, the longer it takes to settle. And if you don't give it enough time, you won't get clarity. So you may get some benefits from a shorter one, but I think longer is potentially more beneficial. Some other things to look out for are the schedule and food. These are comfort types of things, and I've seen some pretty regimented schedules that are early, and some that are chill. I've seen some gourmet retreats and some that seem more monastic. I'd be really clear on what you think you need and do that. Don't go for what you think you should do. Be realistic. It's a long day when you're quiet, alone, and miserable. So don't make it harder than it needs to be. So what's it like? I've only done one silent retreat, and I'm not an old hat at this with 20 retreats under my belt. We just did a mini, so a weekend in the mountains in a comfortable house. We eased into it, so the first day we talked so that everyone would know each other and feel emotionally safe. We talked and ate together. We did an exercise to release tension and trauma together. There was a lot of heat, sadness, disconnection, and loneliness releasing in the pre-quiet moments. I wanted to sob. I felt waves of trembling. I wondered if I had hidden this from myself, or were these the collective experiences from the group? I flopped and jerked and continued to shudder many minutes after we finished. I didn't know where the energy was coming from, but I was glad to experience it, witness it in others, and release it. We processed that and did some drumming and trance work. And by the end of that, we felt all really cozy, and then it was time for sleep. We awoke in the darkness to watch the sunrise and did some chanting. The big windows allowed the moon and the stars to be inside with us as we chanted. I could feel them all around me. There was no separation between inside and the outside. The colors of dawn changed so magically and quickly, and although my eyes were initially closed when the sun crested the treetops, I could feel the sun breaking through the dark night. And I've seen sun rays before, but they never looked like this before. They were sparkling and golden. I've never felt the sun's rays before like that. Everything was pure energy. And in that space, I feel all the ways that I distract myself from living and from feeling moments like this, and I wondered why. This was glorious. Waves of energy reached into my tissues, and I wondered if it was always like this, only I'm too distracted to notice. The waves of energy spiraled up and down, back and forth, like a circle of life, always changing. I alternated between closing and opening my eyes, and each time I opened them, the sun was in a different place. The colors were shimmering from red to orange to gold to blue. I felt the flow of life moving so slowly, and myself going with it. Intellectually, I know that we're always in a state of flux, but this was something totally different because I felt it. Breakfast was at 8. I'm normally hungry before then, but not that day. I wondered if that was because I was already so full of life, energy, wonder, dread, peace, love, fear, all of what life has to offer. We went for a walk to the river. At first I wasn't going to go because it's cold, and then I thought, if I were at home, I'd be walking today without a thought for the cold, so I went. I decided that I always walk like I'm on a mission. I had to remind myself to slow down, savor, look, be here. And when I did, the colors of the grass leapt out of the pasture and delighted me. The sound of a woodpecker seeking his breakfast and the miracle of seed pods blowing in the breeze all seemed to be a miracle. Every inhale, every exhale, every color, every emotion, every smile was a miracle. Before we reached the river, I could see how the recent heavy rain washed the sides of the road away. The humble power of water eroded deep slits into the rich stone beneath. And I stood in awe. It happens every day, but how often do we stop to notice? When we reached the river, it was only us and nature. The faint sounds of the birds singing and water lapping was interrupted by the human-created hissing and whirring and buzzing of our attempts to escape or improve the perfection that surround me. I saw it. I saw the same scene that played out day after day unnoticed. I saw it and felt changed by it, more connected, more real. I feel the truth that I am everything and everything is me. The murderer, prostitute, and vagrant, the millionaire, mother, preacher, and explorer. While none are better than others, I feel the hurt that comes from creating the disconnected, fearful, angry sides of life. Later we had chocolate cake. Every retreat needs to have chocolate cake. And I like the idea of having light and natural foods, but my senses were so heightened and sensitive that this cake tasted like heaven. We did a mantra meditation that was also amazing, and it went from living in duality to releasing and letting go, and then becoming one with all that is. Then it was like this solidifying again slowly, and then completely back to duality. And when I returned, it was with a knowing that my true self is not separate. I feel that the colors are richer, are more here, are more solid, and all that I am is more, and at the same time, less separate. Everyone's experience is different. Every time is different too, I'm sure. I think a lot of people have more of an internal experience, or that's what I read about. I think the type of experience that you have will depend a lot on you, your facilitator, and your expectations. To get the most out of it, here are my tips. So first, get clear on where you're going. If you're using it as an escape, in my opinion, you're setting yourself up for a superficial experience. All the doing that we do is an attempt to escape our feelings, our lives, ourselves. Silence is for feeling what's inside and having a chance to reset. To two, Only do this with people who understand the purpose and are committed to it. Otherwise, they're going to be a distraction from the silence and stillness. Everyone needs to have healthy boundaries, and you need to have space to escape from people who are busy, unsettled, noisy, restless, or a distraction in any way. This means you probably don't want to do this with people you have close relationships with because they may want you to take care of them. Engage with them, kill their boredom, share their stories, or do things that will distract you from your purpose. Another one is let yourself sleep. I think that going within can be exhausting. Once we really slow down, we realize how exhausted we are, so let yourself sleep. Next is don't give in to the temptation to distract yourself. Feel whatever you're feeling. Write it down so that you can capture it, but don't dissect it until the retreat is over. Don't go into that headspace. Stay in your heart. That's a practice that we don't have the safety to do often, so be there. And finally, bring the gold back with you. Don't leave it at the retreat. I've hosted spiritual tours for over 20 years, and I think that's the pattern. People have a great time. That good feeling lifts them up for a time, and then it fades away, so they have another adventure. If you take the good things with you and incorporate them into your life, the experience becomes transformative. So let it transform you. There are benefits to the silent retreat. So one of them is paying mindful attention separates the important from the not important. So you can gain clarity about lots of different things. Another one is that self-awareness can increase because things will come up that were buried because you gave them space. I definitely felt a deeper connection to nature and all that is. And I also came away with a deeper appreciation for human relationships and belonging. I think people think that silence is isolating and increases loneliness. I actually became more aware of the people I shared the experience with and felt the sacredness of human connection. I came away wanting to foster that in very real ways. That's really what the private community is all about. That's what this podcast is all about. I think silent retreats are becoming a bit of a fad right now. I wouldn't look at them as a quick fix or cure-all. I think they do have the power to restore and heal people, but only if those people are willing to be still, let go of the superficial, and release the inner chatter. I'm so glad we did it. Not sure if I do it again, but stay tuned. I'm always up for an adventure. And if you want to join me, check out my website and see what I'm up to. Or join the free community because events are always posted there. So I'd love to hear about your silent retreat adventures and any tips that you have. What did I miss? Feel free to share in the comments, and thank you guys for stopping by. See you next week. Ciao.